So for today's video, we're going to be looking at Lunar Tide's Magic collection in the color Magic Salem. We've had a little bit of complications today, but you know what? We're not going to let the Mercury retrograde get the better of us, okay? So happy Halloween week! I thought this would be the perfect time to start looking into the Magic collection from Lunar Tides. And I'm sure you've seen on the website, if you're familiar at all, but on the inside, there is a shimmer. I don't know if you can see it on this camera, so I'll insert a clip on my phone with the flashlight on so you can see. And even in the diluted one that I did, there's still a bit of a sparkle. And this is a very, very dark, almost black dye. So I will warn, I may not be able to capture it on camera very well, but I will try my best. We have our swatches labeled 1 through 12, but that is not synonymous with hair levels. I'll be doing pictures and clips at the end of the video, so the numbers are just to help us keep track of each swatch. I'll be taking the dye directly from the container and I'll be putting it at the top of each swatch. And then some people do like to dilute their dyes, so I'll be doing a diluted version at the bottom of each swatch. Also, please keep in mind, everyone's hair is different, so everyone's hair will take dye differently. So please just use this video as a reference as to how your hair could possibly turn out. For the diluted section, it's going to sound kind of crazy, but we're going to do a 16:1 ratio. So that's going to be 16 parts of diluter to 1 part dye. And even still, it's kind of on the darker side, which tells me this is probably very pigmented. If you're not sure what diluter is, short and easy answer is that it lightens the color of the dye, essentially. And if you're wondering, I always just use a plain white conditioner when diluting. So I'm gonna let these sit for maybe like 3 hours. I will then rinse them out, let them dry, and then I'll meet you back here and we can do some comparisons. As we probably already knew, this is pretty much a black, and that being said, it dyed all of them except maybe the number 4, which was already black, so. I do think it's interesting because online, the dye itself looks like a very cool toned purple, and that's what I expected. But when I was applying the dye onto the hair, I feel like it looked a lot more warm toned. But now that it's dyed, it definitely still looks cool toned. As for the diluted section, I do see a difference on all of them, except again, the number 4 black swatch. Number 1 was the very intense red color, and I feel like the diluted section turned out kind of burgundy-ish, which is kind of what I was hoping for when I chose the red swatch. Otherwise, if you are looking to dilute this dye, I feel like it looks the best on the number 2 gray swatch, and then the 10, 11, and 12. I don't actually hate it on the number 9, but it doesn't look quite as intentional compared to the lighter swatches. And then for 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There is a slight difference. On the darker swatches, it almost looks toned, like the hair is more cool toned now. On number 3, you can see a slight purple hue, but it does darken up the hair. And kind of the same for 7 and 8. There is still there's a slight purple look, but I guess it depends on what you like. You could always dilute it less than I did. As usual, it looks the most cool tone on the number 2 swatch. And then next in line would be the number 12, which is like the toned looking swatch. And it looks the most warm on 10 and 11, but in reality, it's not a huge difference really. And to me, it kind of diluted to a smokier purple, which makes sense considering it's supposed to be a black dye. So unfortunately, when it comes to comparisons, I really don't have much to compare this to. Even the diluted section, every time I'd pull a purple out that I was thought maybe could be similar, it would end up being way too bright and pigmented in comparison. I think Lunar Tides does make a smoky purple, so when I do that in the future, I will compare this diluted section to that because maybe that's similar. I've been really enjoying doing purple in my hair personally, so I think I'm gonna do this soon, the diluted part. My hair is technically bleached, but then I dyed it like an ashy blonde, but it didn't really stay ashy. I don't know, you know how doing your hair at home can be. So I've been diluting and mixing purples to get a smokier purple that fades to almost a taupey color. And I feel like this could be a good candidate for me too. If I happen to do that before this video goes out, I'll insert some pictures, but I'm really not sure when I plan to do that. So anyways, back to comparisons. I really only have one, and that's gonna be a mix that I did for Manic Panic, and that is Vampire Red mixed with After Midnight. This is comparable to number 12. This is comparable to number 11. And this is comparable to number 10. So for the mix video, I did more After Midnight on top and more Vampire Red, or less After Midnight, I really should say, on the bottom. So the bottom turned out much more burgundy looking, but the top has that cool tone purpley look that reminded me of the smoky Salem for Lunar Tides. It's probably very hard to tell on camera, so I guess you'll just have to trust me, but the mix actually looks a lot more cool toned, probably because of the blue that's in it on top here, and the Salem actually looks more black. And I did actually do a swatch where I did equal parts of After Midnight and Vampire Red, which gave me much more of a pure black, and that is this one. I believed I used a platinum blonde swatch for that one, and it's kind of hard to tell, but I do think these two look more similar than this, because again, you can actually see a lot more of the blue coming through, making it very cool tone looking. But I feel like you can actually see a tad bit more of the purple in the Salem in comparison, but I'm not gonna say that anyone just walking around with this color in their hair will look like it's purple, because it is very, very dark. Unfortunately, it is that time of the year where it's not always very sunny out, and it rains a lot where I am during the fall. So I can't promise that there'll be a direct sunlight photo, because I'd rather get this video up on time than wait around for the sun to come out, which it hasn't been in the last few days, but I will try. And I do film before and after clips in natural lighting, so that'll help a little bit. It'll still look very dark though. I already know that from past experiences. So that being said, I'd like to get into the before and afters, but do keep in mind I have to film the clips different times of the day, different days. So sometimes recreating the exact same environment with natural lighting can be very difficult. So if anything looks slightly off, that's probably why. But for any of the pictures and stuff you'll see at the end, it will all be natural lighting. I really hope this video helped. If you have a request, I do have a link below to a Google form you can fill out. Just remember, I only do dyes that are not tested on animals. If you're curious about my swatches, I do have those linked below as well. Thank you to my patrons, and thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one.